New Wave Community Media.
Before we start, a note to our listeners. The content of this podcast is based on our opinions and experiences. While New Wave Community Media strives to offer valuable insights and information, we are not medical or professional advisors. Any advice or suggestions presented here should not be considered a substitute for seeking guidance from qualified professionals. We encourage you to consult with appropriate experts regarding any specific concerns or issues you may have. Thanks for tuning in. Enjoy the podcast. Change creates fear, and technology creates change. Daniel H. Wilson, Cherokee citizen and author of Robopocalypse, Robogenesis, How to Survive a Robot Uprising, The Clockwork Dynasty, Amped, and The Andromeda Evolution, an authorized standalone sequel to Michael Crichton's classic, The Andromeda Strain. From New Wave Community Media in Oakland, California, I'm Jenn K. Ward, and this is the Digital Sanity Podcast.
And start to put together a catalog of everything in the world. More data, more with it, more with it, more data, more data, more with it, more with it, more data, more data, more with it.
Kate is an Australian educator, a writer, an entrepreneur, and a powerhouse AI adopter who channels her passion for language and literacy into helping people use the technology to become more efficient and produce high-quality content without losing their humanity. She replaces fear with confidence. Kate will describe how she came to love and champion ChatGPT, aka Generative Pre-trained Transformer, which, in answer to my question, "Hi, can you please tell me what you are and how you work?" happily replied within 2 seconds.
Hey there, I'm ChatGPT, an AI language model created by OpenAI. Think of me as a super smart text buddy. I've been trained on a massive amount of text, from the internet, books, articles, and more. This helps me understand and generate human-like text, based on the prompts I receive.
Thank you, ChatGPT. Well, instead of sticking our heads in the sand, let's listen to Kate. I think you're going to love her upbeat perspective and benefit from her pro tips for things like guarding your privacy while engaging with AI chatbots. Who is this intriguing woman who talks to ChatGPT as if it's a real person? Ready, set, Kate. So, Kate, tell everyone who you were, your name, what you do.
So my name's Kate Ginnivan. I am a writer from Victoria, Australia, and I set up my company, Silver Penned Writing Studio, in January 2021, after COVID hit our state the hardest in the world. We had the harshest lockdowns in the world. So we had kids out of school for 2 years. And I was a school advisor at the time, and it meant I couldn't do my job. I couldn't get in and help teachers and leadership teams to improve literacy because we weren't allowed into schools, let alone out of our own homes. So that 2-year period really forced a reassessment for me, and I decided I wanted to go out on my own. So January 2021, I jumped and started my writing studio and was doing copywriting and ghostwriting for small businesses locally and speech writing for principals, just to take the burden off for them. And then in November, December of 2021, when ChatGPT came around, I had this realization that if I did not get ahead of this technology and wrap my head around it, my job would be redundant. I wouldn't be able to continue as a writer, because who would pay me if they can figure out how to use AI to do it for them? So as someone with a writing background and, 20 years of teaching English behind me, I just absolutely fell in love with the power of this platform, ChatGPT specifically. Fell in love with this technology, that using it as a brainstorming tool to start with, not to generate, hey, I've got to write an essay, can you write it for me? Like, I really don't like that seems to be the default attitude for a lot of people, that it takes the thinking away. I try to look at it from a creative lens of how can it amplify my impact? How can it improve my problem-solving skills? How can it give me 4 different ways to look at this same problem from a different viewpoint? So I started using the technology and then realized, I'm kind of good at this. I really like it, and started to work with service-based businesses locally. And the goal now is to roll out and be able to work very meaningfully with particularly women in business in the US, helping them to leverage this technology so that they are future-proof. That seems to be the emphasis I want, that whether you're a student in high school or you're a first-year small business owner, an aspiring entrepreneur, if you can learn the language you need to use to interact with AI, you can make a digital assistant and you can use it every day, which I do to the point where it's a bit embarrassing that, I'm looking up, give me 10 quotes in the style of Dwight Schrute from The Office to describe a really difficult workplace conflict. And it does it. And I'm every time it does something like that, I'm blown away by it. Just knows all of it. So that's a long way of saying I've channeled my love for writing and reading, but literacy, I've channeled that into how can I make this work for small businesses so that they are more efficient and they're able to produce really good quality content without losing their humanity and, people getting afraid that they're going to lose their jobs. How do I reduce that fear and replace it with confidence to use this technology?
That's excellent. And what I really, really, really love about that is how you see a pain point, which is, people kind of remaining relevant in a way. I think that's the biggest fear that a lot of people have with AI, is that it's just going to absolutely replace them. It will be completely irrelevant. Mm-hmm. And I think with the advance of technology too, even like cab drivers, for example, feel irrelevant now that there's Uber, all of that stuff. But your mission is to diffuse that and say, no, let's make it work for us.
Yep.
Not replace us.
Yep.
But enhance what we can already do.
And to mitigate that fear further, I firmly believe humans can't be replaced by AI, but people in roles will be replaced by humans who know how to talk to the AI in a way to get the results. So it's imperative that moving forward into a future, we don't even know what the future looks like right now. It's the most, unprecedented time, I would suggest. We don't know what that looks like, but we know that AI literacy is the number one skill that we are going to need to leverage in the next decade. So how do we do that without getting overwhelmed by, I'm not a techie, or I don't wear grey hoodies and I didn't grow up in Silicon Valley. So being really conscious of it being inclusive and simplifying it all and taking the fear away, that's probably the key.
Yeah, so you are clearly very comfortable with technology. So in that respect, what does your typical day look like? And how, in terms of your interaction with it, in terms of your interaction with technology?
Okay, so I have ChatGPT Premium and have had since it first came out, because I kept thinking, if the free version's this good, how much better is the premium? And I heard the CEO of OpenAI talking a few months ago, and he said GPT-5 is coming. So I think we're on 4.5 at the moment. And he said, I'm a little bit embarrassed, essentially, about the caliber of the free version. It's a bit sketchy. He used the word sketchy. He's like, it's a bit sketchy compared to what is coming. And I'm like, this current version, the premium version, is so amazing. How can it get any better? But I literally have a GPT tab open on my computer all the time. I have the app installed on my phone. And like this morning, I woke up, I couldn't sleep. And at 4, I was looking up, okay, so I just read this great quote out of the ebook on my phone. I just took a screenshot, pasted it into ChatGPT and said, how can I leverage this? You know my business brief, you know my brand and the language I use. How can you reframe this so that it sounds like me and it is talking to me? And it was like, yep, done. And that was at like 4:05 this morning. So I literally I'm using it every single day, and I have done since it came out, to the point where like my husband gets frustrated because he'll be watching TikToks or Formula One because he's obsessed with Formula One at the moment. And he'll go, oh, did you see that? And I was like, no, sorry, I was just asking GPT if it could help me identify limiting beliefs for accountants, because he's an accountant. He was like, why are you doing that? I'm like, because I just want to see if I can trip it up at any point, and I haven't been able to do that yet. So embrace the wonder and use it every day.
And like I used to say, I've always believed that it's important to remember that technology works for you, not the other way around.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when I sort of describe what you do, I say, oh, well, Kate's amazing. She will teach you how to make AI your bitch.
I wish I could use that as my byline. That's essentially what in a nutshell, that is what I like to try and do. I was using an analogy. I was presenting to a team of psychologists a couple of weeks ago, and they were trying to understand, like, but how do you use it in the everyday? And I said, I talk to AI like it is my personal assistant. I talk to it like a person. I thank it when it does something really well. I reframe like I would to a person. I'm never rude to it. And I said, and I've also got this, I'm always going to be a teacher. I've got that in my brain, that if I walked into a classroom knowing there is, you know, in Australia at the moment, there's 11 years variability in any student's capability in a classroom, 11 years. So a year 7 student who's 12 may have the reading age of a 4-year-old, and there may be another kid in the room who has a reading age of 18. So it's becoming increasingly more difficult to present content to kids. So I always think of GPT or AI in the same way. If I walked into a classroom of year 9s on, you know, just after lunch on a Friday afternoon, they're off the planet anyway. But if I say, right, we're doing these things, and I just word vomited all the things we were doing and said, go, no questions, go, they would all be like, well, did we do the first one? Which one are you talking about? Oh, and they would get all flustered and confused and very overwhelmed because I haven't articulated it with clear steps. The same goes for AI. If I just go, oh, I'm not really sure what I'm asking you to do, but just do all these things, it wants to please. It's desperate to please. So it will spit out as much information as it can. And I think they've set up the free one to do that on purpose. It spits out all the information, but there's no context, there's no relevance. So you might be able to get 1 or 2 subheadings out of it, but you're like, that's not what I wanted you to do. And people get frustrated, so they either go, ChatGPT's crap, doesn't work, or AI's crap, or they go, too confusing, I don't know how to do it, so I'm not going to use it. So I'm really conscious of, when I was talking to the psychs, of saying, imagine it's your PA's very first day on the job. You are not going to load him or her up with 75 tasks from day one. You're going to start simple. You're going to ask them if they need clarification. You're going to check in on them and reframe if they've gone off track. Do the same thing with your conversation with AI, so that you are making sure you're in the driver's seat as the leader, the boss, or, this is your employee. You're in the driver's seat, not the newbie who wants to please, so they just do everything and hope that something sticks and that it's okay. So, yeah, treating it as a human, like my girlfriends, whenever we have an opportunity, I'm like, oh, let me show you. And they're like, why are you so polite to it? And I said, because it mimics our language. So if I'm polite to it, it's polite back to me, and it loves feedback and praise. So when you say, that was awesome, can you do that again, but add more detail to this response? No problem, Kate, particularly when you set up a one that speaks to you as a person. So once you can get past the fear and realise it's a machine, but it has the intelligence of every human on the planet combined in its belly, and we can access that and use it for good, I just think it's unstoppable.
Mm. Oh, my goodness. I'm excited. Now, have you always been this deeply involved with technology? I mean, was it never? Well, what was the point where you started embracing it more?
So I used to blog back in the day, and blogging was a thing. Yeah. And I, in my free time, because I loved writing. I did the NaNoWriMo novel writing month and all of that sort of stuff. And I was only ever doing it for fun. I wasn't doing it with the eye for how can I actually use this beyond pleasure. And then I stopped blogging because I moved to a small town, and somebody grabbed me in the street and was like, oh my God, I love your blog. And I got very, whoa, this is for strangers on the internet that I'm never going to bump into. So I stopped writing. And then once, the pandemic happened and it hit us very hard in Australia, and it forced a reassessment. I'm like, I don't want to keep working in education feeling like the system is broken. I can't make a difference from within the system. I need to go rogue and go on the outside and suggest a contrarian view of this is how we need to help our kids. And so I've got a little bit of traction with schools in Denmark, international schools, but I can't get traction in my own country because teachers at the moment are very, very scared of AI or focusing on it. We've got to stop kids from cheating. And I'm like, no, you've got to show them how to use it. The teachers don't know how to use it properly yet. So we have to teach the teachers before we can get the kids to use it effectively. So that's a challenge in itself.
Mm-hmm. It's funny you mentioned Denmark as a country that's embracing it, which is very interesting, because the way I would think of Denmark, is that they would not.
No, well, in the international schools where they teach the international baccalaureate, they've got more freedom to encourage kids. It's a very different education system to the one I've ever taught in. It's encouraging young people to be their own person and to explore, a little bit Montessori. And so when they spoke to me, they were like, we don't have a policy. How can we implement a policy that actually encourages kids to use this so that they develop skills that they're going to need tomorrow? We just don't know what they are yet. I was like, yep, we've got to take the fear away, but also really school young people on confidentiality and privacy. That was the same when I worked with psychs and accountants. They were like, I can't use this technology because I'm not putting those details in. I said, you would never put those details in. You use placeholder texts instead. You change your client's name to John Doe or Jane Doe, and you still get the same data. You just change that information, on a Google Doc so that you're not You wouldn't put your email address in. You wouldn't put any of that information that you wouldn't publicly post on social media. You don't put it into AI because we don't know where it goes and we don't know how it's going to be used against us in the future. So being really conscious of ethics, privacy, confidentiality before you go play, that's probably key.
That is really important. And I'm really, really happy to hear you say that. Yes, absolutely. Because you're not saying, ready, set, go, without being ready and set.
No. And even so, my husband has an accounting firm, and I was trying to say to him, if we give AI details about your business, your demographic, the community, the businesses you serve, that's going to mean your outputs are much more specific to your clientele. And he didn't really believe me, so I did a fictional. You know how it is. No, it's fine. I don't need it. And so then I made sure I said, a fictional firm, made up a name, and said it's in Australia. So these are the laws, as opposed to it defaults to American for everything. So now that you have that context, give us an output. And it is so specific. It even knows the rainfall of our region, the name of our shire. It knows all of that information. So that was actually really helpful talking to psychologists, because when I said to them, build a business brief or brand snapshot of your practice, and they were like, but why do I need to do that? Because we're all psychs. And I said, yeah, but if your practice is in downtown Melbourne, for example, your clientele are going to be more receptive to accessing mental health care because it's front and centre. Melbourne is a multicultural melting pot, and people go there to study, for example. If you tried to use the same brand snapshot in a very small rural community that doesn't even have a psychologist in town, people have to travel externally, they're not going to be as receptive to mental health support services. So you've got to be aware of your clientele in order to get the most out of the AI platforms.
What a thorough tool that is.
It's so thorough. It's great.
And my brother is in advertising, and he's a senior VP of creative, very big firm. And I asked him, I said, what do you make of this? Chat GPT, all the others. And he said, love. I said, are you kidding? Why? Because I thought, I totally expected him to say the opposite. He's like, oh, first of all, it saves me so much time. And when I have a block, a mental block, you and I are familiar with a writer's block, and this is why I use it often as well. It totally helps you, presents you with a direction, if you would like, but it also inspires you to streamline it in a way that's original and on brand. So he just loves it. He doesn't see it as a lazy thing at all. And as you know, in ad agencies, time is of the essence.
Yep.
So he could save all kinds of time. He's always having to write email. He's communicating all day, and he doesn't have time to do so much of it. So
and GPT, AI loves rote tasks that we find mundane as humans. So if you can feed it a structure of a really well presented email, for example, but you know that you're going to use that same structure for 15 clients that week, then you've got a template there that you can say, here are the parameters, change this up, this is for this particular client, and this is the challenge they're facing and how I'm going to address it. Done. And you can feed it your own writing so it only produces content in your voice. And, I think I said this to you a bit ago, Jen, about When I used to write a sales page for a $2,000 product, it would take me about 3 weeks to write that sales page because I'm a perfectionist and also aware of, the 12 structural features that need to be evident in a really compelling sales page. It would take me about 3 weeks. Now that I have scaffolded, not just for my own, but I've gone to really high-performing sales pages of entrepreneurs, and I've said, mimic this style, this format, I can do it in 2 hours, like a 3-week task in 2 hours. The time saving on that alone, the amount of work or content I'm able to work through, I'm only slowed down by as fast as I can edit it and tweak it.
Do you fact check?
Everything.
Yes, that's very important.
Yeah, because there's a little disclaimer at the bottom of ChatGPT. I'm monogamous when it comes to AI, like the other platforms, but I'm also of the headspace that I'd rather know one platform very well and feel very comfortable there than have to adapt and chop and change because there's so many competitors. You want to double check. In the premium ChatGPT Premium, they've got bots now, like you can explore things that will focus on different, GPTs they're called. And there's one called Consensus, and it's only peer-reviewed journal articles.
Okay.
For, like, one of my girlfriends is studying her doctorate at the moment. Consensus is really helpful for her because she's able to go, give me 3 statistics and papers, and then it gives you the URL so you can actually go and read the entire article. So knowing that this is what's has come out in the last 3 or 4 months, it's just evolved in 18 months. It's evolved so much that the longer people don't go, I really need to get to learn and commit to learning this new technology, the further behind they potentially are going to be. And I don't say that to scare people, like, get on board or we'll run you over. I'm not saying it like that.
Okay.
But it is going to be like Google within the next 2 years, that everyone's using it, if they're not already. But the difference will be that Matthew effect of the rich get richer and the poor get poorer, that if we do not prioritize upskilling people from multiple areas of life, we are going to see that widening gap of people with the universal skills they need to thrive and those who just fall by the wayside. And that's really awful.
Mm-hmm. Right. There will be a human cost for sure. For sure. And that's what scares me about it, is just where will society be? Because it's already so disproportionate.
Yeah.
And especially in a place like Silicon Valley, San Francisco. And in San Francisco, I mean, everybody knows what's going on there. And you have these high-rise buildings, right? And then below, it's absolutely Soylent Green. It's kind of, well, the word dystopian is used a lot, but sometimes it feels beyond that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very much a wealth problem. And I think I'm worried. I hope you're enjoying Kate as much as I am. Out of respect for our brains, let's pause for a centering intermission. Feel free to make a cuppa and or stretch while I share one of my favorite poems with you. The Red Wheelbarrow. So much depends upon a red wheelbarrow glazed with rainwater beside the white chickens. This word picture was written in 1923 by William Carlos Williams, an American modernist poet, author, and physician who lived from 1883 to 1963. It's an imagist poem. Bold, quiet, emphatic, simple, and eloquent. 16 words in all. Listen to it again. Eyes closed. So much depends upon a red wheelbarrow, glazed with rainwater, beside the white chickens. You can pause this podcast and write a poem of your own. Put pen to paper or record your words. Don't use a keyboard. And keep it simple. You will surprise yourself, I promise. Ready for a little break? Me too. We'll be right back after this message. Let's dive back into our conversation with Kate and find out why she stepped away from social media. I want to kind of switch a little bit now to finding out how you typically spend time with other people, and whether it's family or your friends or your colleagues, and do your devices play a significant role in those interactions or relationships?
Well, COVID changed things for me in that I was working full time I was in schools until 2018, and then I had 2 years in an office. So I was always around people all the time. The shift in pace from going from schools, which is so busy and never a dull moment. I missed kids running to the staff room and going, "Yes, can you help me? Bob's just eaten a chili pepper from the garden and he needs some milk." Like, that used to happen all the time. Like, stop eating the chilies. But that didn't, I missed that. I missed that being in schools and the weird little anecdotes that happened. Went to an office, and I remember my first day in the office, I had to go and eat outside because I was chewing walnuts, and it was in the lunchroom and people were reading. It was like I was sitting in a library, and I'm like, "Oh, Toto, this is not for me." And so the more lockdowns we had, so we had I think we had 7 lockdowns total.
Oh, wow. Wow. I had no idea.
Yeah. And the last one, we got 2 hours notice that we were going into lockdown, and we thought it was going to be for 7 days, and it was for 12 weeks. And we were not allowed to go within 3 kilometres of our home. We were, we had to have a social bubble. So the mental health toll that the pandemic has had on my community is huge. Me personally, I'm reclusive now to the point where I actually have to physically make myself leave the house. I have a home office, but I have got myself an office out of the home so that I actually leave the house and put not tracksuit pants. So I do my face and, I just leave the house. And I am very happy in the solitude, but it's not great for mental health, I wouldn't think. And my siblings, one lives in Canada and one lives interstate. So my family has always been all around the world. And so that's my carrot, is when do I get on a plane next? So yeah, I use the devices as in Messenger and whatnot, sending stupid TikToks to the family. But I don't particularly use technology as in social media anymore because I have a real issue with the values or lack thereof of social media. So, and I think I said it to you before about how our brains are not made for TikTok, of going, I'm laughing because a French bulldog fell down the stairs while it was trying to eat all the food. And then the next video is somebody being, screaming for help in Gaza. And then the next video is somebody running from the shops terrified because there's been a shooting or a stabbing. Our brains aren't built to go through that roller coaster in 30-second intervals. So I am very conscious of how much time I spend on these apps or, on TikTok. I'm not on Facebook or Instagram or anything anymore. I try and be on LinkedIn. Not very good at LinkedIn.
It's funny. I'm just, and a sidebar here. Yeah. Kate and I actually met through LinkedIn. One day I don't check my messages very much anymore on LinkedIn because it's all sales pitches and it drives me nuts.
Yeah.
The value, the authenticity is so low now on LinkedIn. It's just almost junk, the stuff I get. So I got your message and I thought, I think this is a real person. I think this is a very much not a universal message that this person has sent. And I felt like you really understood me, but not in an algorithmic way. And
I was going through a phase where I was like, I need to make connections with real people on LinkedIn, because as a person who is going through this entrepreneurial journey, it has felt quite lonely at times because, I've got family, I've got lots of friends, but they're not doing this same thing that, my husband has had his business for 20 years, and to talk to him about it, he gets it, but he's also got 3 business partners. So he can roll his ideas off, bounce his ideas off people. Right. I'm like, is this a harebrained scheme or a new genius? Like at moments where I'm like, I don't know. Right. Idea.
That's right.
And I'm reaching out.
Yeah, he reached out and we met, and I thought it was fantastic. I thought, and we agreed that we would meet again, right? Yeah. And so our relationship has remotely evolved, and I love it. I didn't find someone who would help me improve my marketing thing by exponential this within 10 weeks. That wasn't what this was. And now we're actually creating things together. We share ideas about each other's businesses. We're 2 women supporting each other in business, and that's, that'll be another episode. I have co-founded during COVID an enterprise that basically what we do is we take, by and large, fledgling women entrepreneurs from business idea to launch, because we believe very strongly that my partner and I, that women's lives are utterly different. They really are. And we go through so many seasons in our lives, and there's not necessarily that support or even a step-by-step. Show me how. There's so much noise out there. We're of the same mind about that. And thank you, LinkedIn. And in fact, I found a new way of community media through a platform called Volunteer Match. It came up first in my feed. I filled out the forms, the information, put what my strengths were, the radius, all of that. And it came back with this. And I just was like, I believe it sent them my information, and then I heard back. So there are so many pluses.
Yep.
To all of this. It's not all fake.
No, and it depends what you're looking for too. Like, it'd be great to build my email list by 1,000 new subscribers a week, but that's not going to happen without paid advertising. So I can tap dance on TikTok, or I can write posts on LinkedIn, but they only go so far depending on whether the algorithm likes me or not today. So I don't want my career or my aspirations for helping other people to be hindered by a platform that determines whether my voice is heard or not. So I'm a little bit anti the platforms at the moment. And I'm like,
I am as well. I am as well, because I find so much of it, especially for people in business, completely performative.
Yeah.
Performative. I don't find a lot of sincerity. Or if I do find it's a polished version of it, and I'm kind of over it.
Yeah.
To be honest.
have birthdays on Facebook, and, randoms that you met 15 years ago post happy birthday. And I'm like, am I supposed to reply to individually and go, thank you for typing happy birthday?
Yes, I know. Ungrateful, Kate. You know what I want to know? And I don't know how much we've really talked about this, about our, our activities and hobbies offline.
Well, I have 3 dogs. I'm a dog mum. I have 3 stepchildren as well, but the dogs take priority in the house, and the children know that. So I spend a lot of time with my dogs, to the point where we have a Velcro relationship. But I also am into, we built a house 18 months ago. And so in COVID, because we weren't allowed to be within 5 kilometres, I was able to plant out our block. And so we now have a very established garden. I didn't know I loved gardening. I love gardening. But I also am into thrifting at the moment. So, like, my dad collects driftwood, and he, every time he gets a really good branch, he'll bring it around and he's like, do you want to do something with this? So I have a branch at home that is all clamped and ready to go. I'm going to sand it, and then I'm going to paint it gold. I'm going to put it on a matte black background, and I'm going to use that as art in my room that has skull wallpaper, much to my mother's home.
Oh, this is going to be great. I can't wait to see the picture.
The skull room. Yeah. I'm a little Gothic at heart. I love the Mexican sugar skulls. Love them. So found some wallpaper. Mum was like, you're not putting that on your walls. I'm like, it's my house. There's no Dutch plates, because Mum's got Dutch background. Those little blue and white plates, I used to joke that they were jump fittings. There's no plates on the walls of my house. So, yeah, just I do a lot of creative outlets that are beyond writing, because it became, I could get so absorbed and hyper focused to the point where I'm like, I'm actually antisocial. I need to have a get out stop.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's why I have an office out of the home, because I'd lose time and I'd be so in the zone, and then the husband or the kids would come home and I'd get really annoyed with them for talking to me. And I'm like, excuse me, I'm in the zone. And then I'm like, it's 6 o'clock, Kate.
6 o'clock.
Yeah.
I know my boyfriend gets on me for that all the time. Or, it's 9 a.m. How long have you been up?
Yeah.
And I would like to have coffee with you, and I get kind of surly, like, just a minute. Yeah. We have discussions about that often.
Yeah. And that is literally the reason I had to get an office out of the home, so that I have, like, it's 10 minutes from home. So I can listen to a podcast on the way to or from, or start it anyway, and just have that separation. So when I'm home, I'm present. And it's actually worked out really well like that.
What podcasts do you listen to?
I love Online Marketing Made Easy, Amy Porterfield. She's up to like episode 700 now. She's prolific. I love Business Made Simple by Donald Miller. I listen to the Course Creator Show by Jenna Bonham Carter, and she's Canadian.
Oh, is she related? Is she related to the Bonham Carters?
Oh, I don't know.
Helena Bonham Carter.
Oh, yeah, that one.
That one. Interesting. Just thought of that.
Yeah. And yeah, Armchair Expert or Armchair Anonymous when husband and I are in the car together, because that's a nice, not about work one. The anonymous ones just make me laugh so.
Well, that's great.
Yeah. So
I have to check that out.
Yeah. Oh, the other one that's really, really good. You probably listen to Serial.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I really liked Serial when that was out. And To Live and Die in LA was great too.
And I'm so basic, but I mean, I just love it is, of course, my favorite murder.
Oh, that's my sister's favorite. She sends me episodes. So that there was one in San Diego of a guy that got a tank, stole a tank.
I haven't heard that one.
Oh, my sister's really into that because the town I live in, we have the mushroom murderer. You may have heard about it on the news. The lady that invited her former in-laws over for lunch and they all ate the beef Wellington and died. She's from our town. So our claim to fame is don't buy any of the mushrooms.
Don't buy any of the mushrooms. Although it's giving people who have difficult relationships with their mothers-in-law some ideas.
Yeah, right. That's our claim to fame.
That's funny. I mean, no, it's not funny. It's not. But
it's terrible. But
no,
and yeah, it's terrible.
It's terrible.
It's fascinating that that my sister's in Canada. And she'll ring me and go, I need an update. What have you heard? Because, people pull you up in the supermarket and go, now I heard that this and this and this happened.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so the gossip mill just went crazy. But it doesn't look good. Anyway.
Yeah.
I don't want to, it's awful. These poor innocent people. But she either is very good or terrible. She tried like 4 times to take her husband out. And he was in and out of hospital. Like he plays basketball with friends of mine, and they're like, "Oh, we thought he just had like irritable bowel or something." Because
I'm laughing again. Why am I laughing? Yeah,
it wasn't irritable bowel. It was your wife is trying to kill you. So, yeah, I probably shouldn't laugh.
Man,
that Ricardo.
Jeez. Well, I have a little. This is totally on the side. Have you ever heard of these guys are on all the crime and serial killer podcasts kind of thing. The Schoenfeld brothers who kidnapped a bunch of kids and put them on a bus, like a school bus, and then buried them under the ground. Under the ground.
Yeah. I thought I saw that on a TV show. I thought that was a made up thing.
No. In fact, get this. So the Schoenfeld brothers, this is way before, we moved from one town to another, and they lived across the street from a teacher friend of my dad's. My dad taught in high school, and Roger said, "Oh, you guys are going to be moving? Well, I know some boys across the street, and they have like a van." And all this stuff, and they'll help you guys move. And it was the Schoenfeld brothers. So we moved to our new place with them, with all our stuff in tow, moving our furniture from one room to another. And my brother and I were like, they're kind of weird.
Oh, that's so weird.
I'm glad we didn't drive in the van with them.
Yeah. That's a really good story.
It's a really good story. So, yeah, podcasts can be absolutely great, like this one. Well, let's see. I have more questions.
Okay.
How are you doing? How are you feeling? How's the energy? Okay. Do you have a big purpose in life or a particular personal, professional goal that you're working towards? And how does technology, apps or tools, how do those support those aspirations and personal growth?
Okay. Yes, I have a personal mission. I want to be able to help 300,000 businesses to future-proof in the next 5 years so that they are, and then that's a huge goal. And I also go, unreasonably big goal means I've got a drive. It keeps me going. But I want to be able to help them to not just leverage AI, but to use it in an ethical way that reduces overwhelm, streamlines their efficiency, makes their operations hum along so that they've got more time. Because I work essentially with service businesses, I want them to have more time to work with their clients by taking away the back end work. So in working with psychs and accountants and GPs, for example, I want to be able to help them to streamline the time it takes to write up their reports and their briefs and, their essential document that they've got to have. I want to streamline that so that they can then go, I can fit 3 more clients in today. That's 3 more clients that can get access to resources that they wouldn't otherwise be able to access. So it comes from a place of, I've always been a teacher, and I've loved that, but I've got a background in counselling as well.
Oh,
so
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. That was my other business that was very short-lived. I was a counsellor locally in my very small town for a while, but I had to give it away because it was too difficult to live and work in the same town.
Oh, yes. Okay, I can see that.
Yeah, it was messy. It got quite messy. And because I'm not a local, I am now, but my now husband has lived here all his life. He knows everyone. And I felt a bit uncomfortable that people would turn up and go, oh, yeah, I saw him for a beer the other day. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to mix the two.
Yes.
So
it'd be hard.
And it was also the realization that I was working primarily with adolescents, but my sadness was people will spend money on trivial things, but they won't spend money on things like mental health support if you can't give them a result in a week. Like there is a difficulty in explaining that it's a journey, that you can't. If you're not committed to doing the work to get to where you want to be, you're not going to get the results. But at the same time, you've just spent $300 on hair extensions, but you don't know how to get yourself out of this very difficult toxic loop that you're in because you won't spend money on getting support for that. So I found that really difficult. And so started doing things for free, or somebody would turn up. I'm like, I would never turn up to a restaurant and go, I haven't got $50 today, so can I just pay you back next time? I'm just going to take my dim sims and off I go. And I'm like, this expectation that because it's talk therapy, it's free or readily accessible, I was like, no, I need to, for self-preservation, I needed to step back. So I've been able to use those tools in other ways, particularly with, working with small businesses with strategy and how do you implement AI in a way that is going to streamline your efficiencies, to use my background in education and therapy to go, let's step this out. Let's use micro steps so that we can keep moving forward. And you can have little wins along the way. So you're seeing progress. I found that really, really helpful. So my skill set has sort of led me down a kind of
wow. It's very great. It's just everything is coming together. And interestingly, it's coming together really thanks to AI.
Yeah.
A lot of people think that AI is ungluing everything, right? It's that fear thing. Like AI is making everything a mess, whereas you're healing.
There's also that fear that it won't understand my challenges. My concerns are very specific to me. And yet if you listen to any of the experts or the podcasts, so Alex Hormozi has talked about using AI on his podcast. I can't remember what it's called. His podcast is called at the moment. But he's talked about how he interviewed a divorce lawyer who was in their 60s and said, what are the things that you would do, or the biggest problems that you have in your industry? Lay out the top 3 for me. And then he said, okay, now let's ask AI for responses. And the divorce lawyer was absolutely blown away. He was like, that is like the advice that I would deliver. It is so accurate. That's actually quite scary. It's like, because this is a machine that has access to the best knowledge in the world, and it can pull it like that. So, it is scary if you get stuck on that. But I go, look at all of the opportunities it presents. That that a young person who has very limited literacy can now use, say, ChatGPT app on their phone. They don't have to type. They can speak into it. They can ask it to do things by speaking. So,
interesting.
Things like not being able to spell words correctly isn't a barrier anymore when you've got the technology that goes, hey, let's find a workaround. Let's play to your other strengths. You're great orally, so just talk to me. I don't know. I choose to look at it as a positive because it's here whether we like it or not. And there was a great quote in Forbes a few months ago, when the motor car came in, people were absolutely apoplectic about it.
Right.
We don't want this car. We don't want this thing. It's going to disrupt our communities.
Mm-hmm.
Then they want the phone. And we carry because they were worried it was going to affect how we communicate. Absolutely it has. But it's also meant we're more readily accessible than we've ever been, to the point where we have to put in boundaries that you can't call me after 5 p.m. if I work for you.
That's right.
I need personal.
Right. I think that's even illegal in Germany. You can't do that if you're an employer.
You can't contact after 5 p.m.
Or just after work even, I don't think.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, and they've had to bring that in schools over here because teachers were getting contacted at 11:30 at night, and kids getting upset the next day. Oh, I messaged you about this. That's why I didn't get my homework done. Mm-hmm. I'm not checking my emails at 11:30 at night. So it's brought in. There are issues with AI, obviously, and disrupting the way that we've done things. But every innovation that's ever been brought in history has also been a disruptor, and it has been met with, challenge and people saying, no, we don't want this, and then going, oh, well, let's hear now. Google did that. People were terrified of Google for 3 minutes, and then now, how do we function without being able to look up who's that actor? What have we seen them in before? While you're watching TV at night,
right? But also then there are security concerns with technologies. For example, with Google, a lot of people are really creeped out, that way. And I think that AI is going to have some serious implications in terms of defense.
100%.
So how do we find the solutions? Or middle grounds?
Well, I think it starts with education, that we can't assume people know how to engage with it in an effective way. That, just jump on GPT or jump on AI and download this and go. Ask it whatever you want. That's not actually empowering people. That's creating overwhelm and exacerbating fears, because if you don't know the question to ask or how to initiate a conversation, or even that it is a conversation, if you expect that you're just going to ask a question and it's going to give you an essay on, Lady Macbeth's role in Macbeth's downfall because you said, write me an essay on Macbeth, that's not great either. So I think it starts with education and letting people know these are the parameters, these are the priorities. Confidentiality, ethics, your privacy are all should be front and center and top of mind every single time that you use this technology. But also don't expect that it's going to be perfect, because no human's perfect.
No.
I'd use the 80s rule, Jen. I remember it with real bad 80s haircuts. That I remember things. I have little mental, what do you call it? Mental notes to help me.
Yes.
Flares. I learned how I remember the 80 principle when using AI. So the first 10% is I am clear about what I want to achieve when I engage with this machine. The next 80%, it does the grunt work, it does the heavy lifting. And the last 10%, I have to either reframe it or edit it or ask a different question to get to where I want to go. So thinking you're going to get 100% the first time, that's a silver bullet. Silver bullet? No.
What is that? It's
flying pig. It doesn't exist. Yeah. So going in, but being aware of these are the parameters. This is how I'm going to engage. This is what I want to engage with this technology for. Like, I know what outcome I want before I start. These are all things that we need to not only teach our kids in schools, but we need to teach teachers, but also businesses as well. That, you know, assuming that it's just going to go away if you pretend it's not there isn't realistic. But being able to spot the difference as well. Like, I can, and I'm sure you can as well on LinkedIn, I can see the difference between a post that's been written by a human that has emotion in it and one that
Absolutely.
copy and paste.
Oh, copy and paste, and just, again,
That's
performative, but not even. It's not even that sincere.
No. But lots of people will say, I can tell when it's AI and it's crap. Absolutely, it's crap, but it doesn't have to be. If you know how to talk to it and you know what tone you want it to be delivered in, what writing style, like my opening prompt is always act like a particular persona who specializes in. So act like a brand strategist who specializes in taglines. So that you're getting super niche, and you are then going to tell it what you want it to do in that role.
Absolutely.
You can also ask it to act like celebrities. So if you if you want to act like Barack Obama and produce a speech for the eulogy of my cat, you can get it to deliver it in the voice, style, and tone of Barack Obama. Michael Scott. Anyone that has a heavy digital footprint, you can get it to emulate them.
Well, which is kicks and laughs too. But the thing is, is that plagiarizing somebody's very essence.
Yes. And that's where, that's the ethical dilemma. But being able to go as a writer, I really, really like the language that there's a writer called Ash Amberjay, and I really love her writing style because she's sassy, and her brand is called the Middle Finger Project. She's like flipping the ball. And I love everything she writes. I just think is amazing. But I can get one of her emails and say, can you unpack this as a scaffold for me and show me what humour she uses here or what analogy she uses? I don't have to be an English literature specialist to do it. I can ask the AI to analyse it for me. So then I can go, cool, she uses really interesting analogies. I want to be able to do that in my writing. What skills do I need to shape my existing story to use these relatable analogies? And you can do it. So I don't see that as stealing from another writer. That's, I really love this skill you have. How do I hone my skill in that thing to make writing better?
Okay.
So I think it's about how we frame the purpose of using it, but also being really conscious of merit when giving credit where credit's due.
Yes, that's what I was going to ask about that. Yeah.
Yep. The New York Times is currently taking OpenAI to court because
it is. Yes,
yeah,
it is.
and I imagine that there will be several other artists, several other people that follow suit. And even Elon Musk has come out and said, I don't like the way that it's been done, and we shouldn't have let it loose and let the public use it before we find it all out. I'm like, the horse is bolted, buddy. Like, you can't release this technology and then say, no, we're taking it away like TikTok. It's like, doesn't work like that.
Hey, buddy, look in the mirror here, Thank you, Kate. You are a gift to our ears. Stay tuned for part 2 of my energizing conversation with Kate. If you're interested in volunteering or being a student intern, if you have ideas for topics or would like to be on the show, email me at digitalsanity@newwavemedia.org. Remember this, options control sanity. Woo-woo!